What's up, guys? This is Sporta here on Tuesday. It's David and Zach. We are talking, well, essentially, we're going to be talking expansion draft for the Seattle Kraken. Protection lists have dropped. We know who is available, and we're excited. I've done mock drafts, trying to get everything figured out. Of course, I've done who I would pick. Coach Zach has chosen who he would pick, and we'll probably go through and do a more realistic scenario. For those of you that aren't familiar, the expansion draft is fairly simple. They will pick one player from every team, with the exception of the Golden Knights, which I will talk about because I don't agree with that. And then they have to use at least, I think, $60 million in cap space, and they have a max of 81.5. You have to have a certain amount of forwards, certain amount of defensemen, certain amount of goalies. So there's a lot to get to. But I want to talk about the Golden Knights being exempt because I don't agree with it. They forego their expansion fee, that $20+ million, and they get to protect everybody. Now, this was a deal that they made when they signed their contract to enter the NHL, knowing another team was coming along. I think everyone should either A, have this option and a bigger slice of the pie goes to every other team, because let's just say 10 teams opt out. That's an extra $10 million for every other team entered. Or everyone gets put in and that's that. It's a moot point. I don't see the NHL expanding anymore. We'll probably have teams move essentially along the line. But what do you think about that with Vegas and them being exempt? So what are your thoughts on Vegas and them being exempt from the draft as well?
That's why I think that when it comes to them breaking into the league and, going to the Cup finals right away, and it just, for some reason, there's a part of me that feels that Gary Bettman or somebody is still trying to make them good. That way they still are going to be, competitive and everything for years to come. Right. And they have the pieces, but I don't think it's exactly fair. I know I'm going to sound whining and whatever, but I think that, you guys have been in the league now for almost 4 years? Is it 3 years?
Yeah, it'll be our 5th year this season.
Yeah. So I think that they should be in the draft just like everybody else. I don't see why they should be exempt from it. And when I heard about that, I was like, man, like, you guys got what you want. I mean, if another team comes along, which there is a rumor that there's going to be another expansion team coming in that, like, 5-6 years. I mean, does Seattle get the same treatment? That's right. Another big question, because if another team does come along and they don't get the same treatment, then okay, what's going on? Why is Vegas so? What makes them different? So,
right. Which would make me wonder if Seattle had that option when they were doing their league fees and everything to come in. If Bettman gave them that option, say, hey, look, we plan on expanding to Portland or wherever they want to expand next. Give them that option. If they don't, then obviously it's completely unfair. I completely agree with you. But yeah, let's get into the draft and the protection list. A lot of names on that list, and this is what I don't like about Seattle fans. They think about the past and they think about bringing home guys that have played in the area. Like, they want the Tyler Johnson and they want, oh, hey, Carey Price is available and he played close. It's not realistic. I think you got to go with the best players available. And that's essentially what I did. Is I have no bias towards Seattle or Washington, so I kind of went through and just made my list. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to just start off team by team or?
We can. Yeah, I mean, I'll say what team and then we can go from there. Okay. Do you want me to go first? Or you want to go first?
Go ahead and you go first. Let's see.
Okay. So from the Nashville Predators, so I'll tell you my projected cap space after all of this. It was 58,334.
Okay.
And so projected cap hit is 81,441,666 bucks. So
Okay.
my first was Ryan Johansson. I know that they want to get him out of Nashville. That's my pick for Nashville. The Blues, you got to take Vladimir Tarasenko. I think taking him would be the right move.
Okay.
From the Pittsburgh Penguins, I would take Jason Zucker.
Okay.
Columbus, obvious one, Max Domi. I mean,
Yes.
you got to, you know, young, tough kid who's got a ton of speed and great skill. And then obviously from Tampa, you got to go with Yanni, if I butcher this name, Yanni Goudreau. I think that's how you pronounce
From Tampa, Yanni Gord.
Yanni Gord. And then you've got from the Islanders, you got Josh Bailey.
Okay.
And then from the Avalanche, Jonas Donskoy.
Okay.
And then from the Kings, I went with Brendan Lemieux. And then for the Coyotes, I went with, I mean, that one's a crapshoot. Christian Fisher.
Okay.
And then for Dallas, I went with Blake Como. New Jersey, I went with Nathan Bastian. And the Rangers, I went with Colin Blackwell. Sharks, I went with Ryan Donato. And then defense, it's a little bit easier because there's some obvious ones. Like my first one for Calgary was Mark Giordano. Like that was a no-brainer. And then you got Brendan Dillon from the Capitals. And then you got from the Jets, Dylan DeMahieu.
Yes.
The Flyers, Justin Braun. And then from the Leafs, you got Travis Dermott. And then from the Ducks, I chose Hayden Fleury. And then from the Ottawa Senators, I chose Joshua Brown. From Boston, I chose Connor Clifton. Buffalo, William Borgen. Carolina, I chose Jake Bean. That's an obvious one. And then you got Detroit, Dennis Glukowski. And then from the Blackhawks, Nikita Zadorov.
Okay.
Zadorov. And then for goaltenders, see with this one, it's very obvious. Like I went with Carey Price. I mean, if you want a guy who's going to be the face of this team among other vets, and it's a fresh new start for him, which it still raises a lot of questions for me with Carey Price, is why did he waive his no move clause? Like, did he just get fed up with Montreal, or did Mark Bergevin say, you know what, we've been down this road, we're done? So, I mean, I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
My backup goaltender, and this guy he had a terrible season in Vancouver. I went with Braden Holtby.
Right. Okay.
And Minnesota, Kaapo Kähkönen. Kaapo Kähkönen. And then fourth from Florida, I went with Chris Drager.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, so Drager to me is the one that they talked about a lot, especially here, that they're working on a deal because he is a unrestricted free agent this year. So they want to sign him or get a deal in place before they even draft. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But you know, I told you earlier, I went through, I made notes, like 3 pages of full on notes. So my cap hit is at 74,941,000, and space is about 6.5 million. I'll start with my goalies. I went Braden Holtby, cup winning goaltender. I think you need that experience. I think that's where Vegas went right with Marc-Andre Fleury. I think Seattle goes that same route. A cup winning goaltender who knows how to win. Yes, he had a bad year. But I think Braden Holtby is going to be that guy. From Minnesota,
starter or backup?
He would be my starter. He would be starting the year. Minnesota, I took Kaapo Kähkönen. And then from Washington, I took Vanacek, the goaltender out of Washington. He's young. He's 25 years old, restricted free agent after next year. So he could be one of these players that's a sign and flip type guy, made for space or draft picks. Defense, I went okay with defense, not too overpriced, but relatively young. One person that you had that I thought about was Giordano, and the only reason I skipped Giordano was his cap hit and his age. Well, I think he'd be a great locker room presence. I think today's NHL is faster. I don't think he's there. I think he'd get burned. He'd be a pylon on the ice. But I took Calvin DeHaan from Chicago. Olli Mata from the Kings. Dylan DeMillo from Winnipeg. From Detroit, I took Troy Stetcher. Robert Haig from Philadelphia. From Arizona was a tough one, but I keep coming back to this player on defense, Ilya Lyubushkin. I think he's 27. He's less than 1.5 million a year, and he's a serviceable defender. And he's great on the penalty kill. From the Ducks, Hayden Fleury. There were two guys on the Ducks that I thought are worthy of taking. One is Hayden Fleury, and the other one is their goalie Stellares. Young, super cheap, but again, defenders like Hayden Fleury don't come often. From Boston, I took Jacob Zobril, 24 years old, $723,000 against the cap. Carolina, I had two, but I had to whittle it down to one. One was Yanni Hakanpää, and I like Hakanpää, but I went with Jake Bean. From the Calgary Flames, I took Oliver Klingington instead of Giordano, just because 24 years old, restricted free agent. You can sign him and use him in the future. I went forward heavy. This is where I think with Seattle being in the Pacific Division, they don't have to play extremely well to be in a playoff position. The Pacific Division isn't going to be super tough this year. Other than Vegas, every other team is going to have a chance. And so I figured if you can't beat them,
factor in Colorado too.
Well, they're not in the Pacific Division, are they? I don't.
Well, they moved them unless I saw the realignment briefly. I know that they realigned a few things because they moved Seattle in and they moved Arizona out.
Okay,
so
I thought they were.
I know that they changed a few things.
Okay, I thought Arizona was staying in. I thought Colorado.
Be sure.
Yeah, I thought Colorado was going out.
Yes,
but let's see.
So go ahead.
Okay, so forwards from Nashville, I took Duchesne. I think he gives you instant credibility on offense. Yes, it's $8 million against the cap, but he's locked in till 2026. His jersey's an instant seller. You'll make that money back tenfold. Tarasenko from the Blues, I think, is a no-brainer, even if it is a 2-year borrow. Or you can flip him at the trade deadline for a team that needs a forward. Max Domi, again, I completely agree. Max Domi needs a change of scenery. I didn't like his work in Columbus because the coach there tried to put him as a second-line centerman, and he's more of a winger. It just didn't work. Yanni Gourde from Tampa Bay. A lot of people want, like I said, Tyler Johnson. He's a free agent. If he wants to come to Seattle, he'll sign with Seattle. You don't have to go pick him. Yanni Gourde, I think, is the play there. From the Islanders, I took Josh Bailey. Originally I had Jordan Eberle. I took Eberle at first because I didn't have Tarasenko, but I flipped that and moved some stuff around, and I took Tarasenko, and then I took Bailey. I think Bailey's a better play there. I took Brandon Tanev from the Penguins. He's a little bit cheaper than Zucker. They're both the same age, and his contract's a little bit better in terms of length. I took Chris Tierney from Ottawa. Ottawa didn't have anyone I really like that popped at me, so I kind of just went with I needed a forward. I took Tierney. From Montreal, or not Montreal, well, from Toronto, I took Alexander Kerfoot.
Okay.
Center, left wing, 26 years old, 3.5 million. Good for 3 years. You're solid. Colorado, it came down to Donskoy or JT Compher, and I kind of took Compher.
Okay.
I took Compher for salary reasons. You know what I mean? I just, with this stuff, you gotta be careful because you got to think about sign and trades and side deals and swaps and that all that they're doing.
Yeah.
Buffalo, I took Cody Eakin,
and
I took him because he's been through this before. He went through it with Vegas. He knows the growing pains of an expansion team. I think he'd be a good locker room guy to have to kind of lead the way in this navigation of expansion season. From the Sharks, I took Dylan Gambrell.
Okay.
I thought about Donato, but he was just too expensive on this cap. Dallas Stars, Blake Como. New Jersey's another one that just didn't impress me. I took a young kid, Nathan Batchton, 23 years old, 825,000.
Yeah.
From the Rangers, Julien Gauthier, 23 years old, 775,000. Edmonton, I wanted Chase on, but salary wouldn't permit, so I went with Kahira.
Okay, that's
restricted free agent. You can sign him, you can let him go. It doesn't matter. And then Montreal, I took Philip Deneau. I think after this postseason, I think Deneau earned a nice contract, and I think he can be a solid second or third line guy to help anchor that center position in the deeper lines for the Kraken. Like, we know Vegas rolls out 4 lines deep, and I think Seattle can do that same thing with the players that are available, and I think Deneau can lead one of those lines.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right. So what did you find on the Pacific Division? What are we looking at?
Okay, yeah. I wasn't sure if you were done.
Yeah.
So the division realignment. So Pacific, you got the Ducks, you got Calgary.
Okay.
You got Edmonton, you got the Kings, you got San Jose, you got Seattle, and then you got Vancouver, and then you got Vegas.
Okay.
The Central, you got Arizona, who moved over to the Central, which doesn't really make sense to me.
No.
Then you got Chicago, then you got Colorado going back to the Central now. Then you got Dallas, Minnesota, Nashville, St. Louis, and Winnipeg.
That's a tough division.
That's going to be really tough. I mean, I see Arizona, Nashville, and Winnipeg at the bottom.
Oh, easily.
For sure. And I mean, for the Pacific, you're going to have Vegas at the top, obviously. And I think if Seattle comes out guns blazing, which I'm pretty sure they're it's going to come down to those two. Third and fourth spots, I mean, the Oilers could be something.
Yeah.
I don't know with that team. It's just, it's so hard to say. Calgary, I feel like, I mean, they're Calgary. But at the end of the day, I see it's going to be the Ducks, the Kings, Sharks, and probably Vancouver at the bottom. I mean, that's probably what it's going to be. Atlantic, we're going to the East. You got Boston, you got Buffalo, Detroit, Florida, the Habs, Ottawa Senators, Tampa Bay, and Toronto. And that's going to be a really tough division because you're going to have Tampa, you're going to have Toronto, Boston, obviously, and then don't know what Florida is going to be. They were pretty good last season.
Right.
The Habs, I mean, Detroit, Buffalo, probably going to be at the bottom. Ottawa's definitely going to be at the bottom. Then going over to the Metropolitan, you got Carolina, Columbus, New Jersey, the Islanders, the Rangers, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Washington.
Yeah.
That one, I mean, I see the Islanders being at the top, and you can't count out Pittsburgh ever. Philly, I don't know. The Rangers, they're on the up and coming.
Right.
So just
it
really depends.
The Islanders are interesting because Matt Barzal needs help, and he doesn't have it on his line. And then they went and traded Nick Leddy to Detroit.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I thought Nick Leddy was one of those pieces you kind of wanted to keep around.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was a surprising move. But yeah, I think Pittsburgh is going to be there again if Crosby and Malkin stay healthy.
Yeah.
If Jason Zucker or Brandon Tanev leave, you then have to fill a spot because that's going to leave a hole on your second line. And
they definitely need help on the back end. That's for sure. Because you got Chris Letang, who has been getting hurt all the time. I mean, they most definitely need help on that back end. And I mean, it's kind of like we talked about a few weeks ago. It's kind of like the slow phase out of Ovechkin and Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. It's like we're getting towards the end of that era.
Right, exactly.
Which raises a big question right now. Where is Ovechkin going to end up? Like, is he going to go back to Washington, or is he going to get signed by somebody? Because right now, the top free agents currently, let me get to cap friendly here real quick. You got Alexander Ovechkin, you got Ryan Getzlaf, you got Taylor Hall, you got Zach Parise and Ryan Suter, who got bought out.
Right.
Which was a big shock to me because they were, what was it, a 14-year deal? Something like that?
Yeah, it was a huge deal.
Oh, my God. And then you got David Krejci, you got Tuukka Rask, and you got Derek Steffen. So I've thought about it, and I know a lot of other people have thought about it. And I mean, I could see him going back, but he has also talked about that he does want to finish his career in Washington, but then eventually after his career, go play in Russia.
Right, the KHL.
Yeah. So he might just go to Russia and say, okay, well, if you're not going to pay me, then I'm done. You know?
Yeah. It's funny because it's as cool as I think it would be for, like, to see him in another uniform. Like if he went to, a Vegas or a Colorado or a Tampa Bay, like it would be so weird to see him. And same goes for Getzlaf. I can't see Getzlaf in any other sweater.
Yeah.
If the Ducks don't sign him to at least a 1-year deal, I think he retires. As hard as that is to say, because he's by far my favorite Duck of all time, and I can't imagine him walking away with such so little fanfare. Like, when Kobe retired and when Dwayne Wade retired, they did these retirement tours in the NBA where, fans could go see him one last time. We knew they were retiring. And it's kind of like, I want to do that with Ovi and Getzlaf and be like, hey man, let us know you're going to retire. We'll sign you to a 1-year deal. And you can be on
are
the
we
fourth
really
line.
going to compare Getzlaf to Kobe and D Wade? Like, come on, dude. Like, as much as we love, I loved Getzlaf at the start. And then once he became captain, it's like something changed. His shot percentage went down into the 4 or 5% range. And then 2017, it went back up to that 20-30% range.
Right.
And I do agree with you. I think that there's something that needs to be in place where he does one more year, break the all-time franchise points record, and then call it a career, because he's not staying in Anaheim to win. Like,
no.
Our win window right now, I mean, we're probably not going to be competitive unless something gets sped up, and then we, make that, decision. It's like 3 to 4 years from now.
Yeah.
And that's why people are also contemplating, like, okay, well, should we trade John Gibson right now in his prime and get a good return and have Stolores start?
Right.
So, but yeah, I agree with you about it would seem odd if they were to just, unless his injuries are just so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because like I said, even if you, like you said, sign him to the 1-year deal, let him break the points record, and then retire after that. Let him get his standing ovation at his last home game. Say thank you to the crowd and walk off that way. I think he's deserved that. But at the same time, I don't see him in another sweater. I don't see him on another team. If it's not the Ducks, I think he's done. And Ovi's the same way. If it's not Washington, I think he goes to the KHL, kind of like Kovalchuk did, and kind of play over there. And you're making money, but you're not making NHL money. Like, let's be honest, you're just playing in front of your Russian fans and playing at home, like, which is kind of cool.
I mean, I have heard that the KHL players, they do make more money than they do over in the National Hockey League. So that's why Kovalchuk was so quick to get out of New Jersey and go to the KHL and make more money there, even though he was making stupid money in New Jersey. But he was always one of those players that I always scratched my head over. I'm like, man, like, why is it that you can't be that guy?
Yeah.
Maybe because you're a better KHL player, because the ice is bigger. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because I try to stream the KHL games, and I find it so funny that they have like a Chinese team in the KHL, and like 4 or 5 of the teams are just like in like Moscow.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like they must be hurting for some talent out there. They're all centralized in one area. But yeah, like there's a Chinese team in there. I think there's two Chinese KHL teams. But yeah, the ice is bigger. It's a faster game, which, I mean, for Ilya Kovalchuk was great because he was so fast as it was.
Yeah. Atlanta Thrashers legend. Besides Danny Heatley.
Yeah. What happened to the Thrashers? They became. Did they become Winnipeg?
The Thrashers?
Yeah.
I think they just folded. Hold on.
I was gonna say, because I remember they were on the brink, but I thought they just moved them.
I think they did. Let me see. 2000, they were members of this. I don't see anything.
Let me see.
Explore more. When did they sell the team? Sales approved with the sale of it was a relocation.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a relocation.
All right.
Yeah. I can't believe I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were there, man, and then they relocated, and they had Kane. They had Evander Kane.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that, but they had Evander Kane on that team, and man, like that would have been. Atlanta and hockey just don't work well.
No. It's kind of like with the Hartford Whalers when they played in that mall. Like, you go to the mall, shop for a little bit, and then go see a hockey game, and it's like they just couldn't get the fan attendance,
Yeah.
So, but
it's like Vegas. You just go to the strip, you gamble a bit, you walk out, and there's a game going on. You can go in.
Yeah. Speaking of that, how do you feel about if Oakland shift sports? If Oakland moves the Oakland A's to Vegas?
I mean, I'll still be a Dodger fan. But yeah, I think it'd be good for Vegas. Bad for the city of Oakland, but they're losing their teams right and left.
Yeah.
Because their city council just doesn't want to pay for money, pay for stadiums. I think it'd be cool. Like, I think Vegas can do it, but unfortunately, the bulk of baseball is in summer, and it's just so hot.
Yeah, it was like 117. One of my hockey kids was out there recently, and he's like, dude, you'd walk outside, and it's like you couldn't breathe. It was so bad. And I'm like, well, then they would obviously have to I think that they should build it like Minute Maid Park because it's so hot. Just have a retractable roof, air conditioned, big time.
Yes.
I
it
think
would,
that would be the way to go.
it would definitely have to be a retractable roof. It would definitely have to be something where uh you're kept cool. Maybe some of those like water spritzers that
Yeah.
spray the water all the way around. But yeah, I couldn't imagine playing in the openness of 117-degree heat. And they have the minor league baseball team, the Las Vegas Aviators.
Yeah.
And they have a brand new park that they built like 3 years ago, and it's beautiful, but it's outside, and games usually aren't till about 7 o'clock at night, but even 7 o'clock at night, it's still 95 degrees out.
And you're like sticking to your seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a dry heat. It's not a humidity heat. It is a dry heat. So it's not as bad. But like your kid said, it's hard to breathe that desert in. It's hot. It's like, it's better weather than Washington.
Yeah.
I hate this weather.
Yeah.
I would much rather be in 100-degree weather. But no, if the A's move there, man, like we're talking about now Vegas becoming a legitimate sports city.
Yeah.
With the Raiders, the Golden Knights, if you get the A's, there's talk about a basketball team expansion in Vegas and Seattle. And you would have the 4 major sports at that point. And it is a very touristy destination. So, I mean, yeah, I'd go see a game because I'd be interested to see the ballpark.
Yeah.
But no, I unless the Dodgers move from LA, I probably wouldn't cheer for another team, even if it was, a Vegas team.
Yeah, that would never happen.
Yeah.
I'd never see them leaving Chavez Ravine. There's just no way.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wouldn't be too far out of, too far fetched to think, maybe it's Oakland or maybe it's the Angels. Like,
yeah,
that could be something for them, because I know Artie Moreno has been wanting to move them, talking to a number of people, within the guy who created Staples Center.
Okay.
He was actually talking to them for a while, trying to get them to move to downtown LA. And then it actually never ended up being a thing because it was just too much money. But I'm like, hey, man, I mean, you move the Angels, you got the Angels, the Knights, and you got the Raiders.
Yeah.
And I mean, that could be pretty cool. And then, the Angels could get like actual like rebranding, maybe like new colors, like gold and everything.
Right.
Because, honestly, that's when I think of an Angel, I don't think of red.
No.
I think of gold and white, and it could be nice. But
the Angels in the outfield.
Yeah.
That baby blue. Yeah.
So
no, I mean, and you have a built-in superstar in Mike Trout, who's locked up for years. You got
Ohtani.
You got Ohtani, and I mean, yeah, you put him in Vegas. It's not a huge market, but it's exposure.
It could be. It really could be.
So yeah, I mean, that's a thought. I never thought about that, but yeah, like, Oakland doesn't have that guy. They don't. I mean, they got decent players, but they don't have that guy.
I mean, they got Matt Olson.
Right.
But that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at their squad and it's like, all right, well, who's the big standout? Okay, well, Matt Olson.
Yeah.
And it's just, if you got Mike Trout and you got Ohtani, I mean, dude.
Yeah.
And you got Jared Walsh. I mean, there's a number of guys, and, seeing the Angels and seeing them draft nothing but pitchers this past draft, they're doing something.
Yeah.
And it's what they should have done like 10 years ago. But anyways, so what do you think about the Ducks protecting Nick Delorier?
He's a fourth liner, right?
Yeah.
He's a fighter. He's a grinder.
Yeah. He's a fourth liner.
I don't understand.
He played with David Backus on the third, but for the most part, he was a fourth liner and he played with Derek Grant a few times. So
yeah. Who would you have saved instead? Like if you move him out, who do you put?
Oh, Hayden Fleury. I mean, I would protect Volkov, who you just re-signed.
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense. Like, what are you doing? You're unprotecting a guy that you just spent money on. And right. I think it's their hope. They're like, oh, well, he's only 23 years of age. but he's getting paid peanuts.
Yeah.
He got paid $925,000. Didn't really get a chance with Tampa because that's where we got him. And he's an RFA. And I mean, I realistically think as a fan and just the dumb mind that we have sometimes, I think there's a package deal coming. I think that with Hampus Lindholm being protected, Ricard Raquel being protected, and they're both in their final years, it's not out of the question to think, okay, could Nick Delorier get traded somewhere? Because I don't think that he's the right suitor for this team. I just don't think he's that piece that we need right now, especially with all the young guys we have coming through. And then protecting Jakob Silfverberg when he's out 6 to 7 months. Like, what the hell?
I don't know what your GM was thinking there, man. Like,
dude,
I saw Delorier on that list, and I was like, he's your version of Ryan Reeves. Like,
he's like, and this is gonna sound bad. He's like an outhouse version of Ryan Reeves. Like Ryan Reeves, I would take him in a heartbeat because he's a guy that could defend the young guys. Nick Delorier is supposed to be that guy who fights.
Right.
And he was when he first came over to the Ducks. He plays for a number of teams. I think he played for Montreal, then Buffalo, and then came to the Ducks. But he's trying to become something that he's not. And I don't know if that's the coaching trying to do that or it's him trying to, get more playing time. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird, man, because I would have put Fleury on that protection list.
Mm-hmm.
And put Delorier there, but like you said, Alex Volkov, like what is that GM thinking? Like, you give this dude money and then you don't protect him. You got guys on big contracts that you've been trying to get rid of. Why are you not making them exposed? Like, I don't understand what Bob Murray's thinking there.
No, and I as much as I want to think that, I was about to say Vegas, Seattle is going to take Adam Henrique. He's getting paid close to almost $6 million for the next 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And then you got Silfverberg, who's getting paid less money than him, still in the $5 million range. And you think that they're going to take him, who can't play? Like, it baffles me. And that's why I think there's got to be something in place. There has to be.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't think in the wildest part of my brain that Shea Theodore was going to get exposed and go to Vegas in a package deal with Clayton Stoner,
who never played for us.
And he never, Vegas Golden Knights legend. And I mean, honestly, I never would have predicted that. And I was bummed. I was bummed about it because he's done great things for Vegas.
Yeah.
But there could be a package deal with Hayden Fleury and maybe Adam Henrique. I don't know, but I'm gonna be kind of pissed if Volkov gets taken, or even Hayden Fleury. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be pretty upset.
Right? You think your GM would have learned after the Vegas draft? You know what I mean? Because a lot of these teams did. They were making deadline. I say deadline deals, but you had to have your list in by a certain amount of time, and your roster had to be frozen. So they made these deals within the last couple days. Like Vegas got the kid from New York, and then the one kid from Nashville. And then you think that all these teams learned that let's get rid of guys that we know that we're not gonna be able to keep, get something for them, and then expose guys that we really don't care about. And then, on the Montreal thing with Carey Price, I think that's a setup. I think they thought his contract's too high. No one wants to touch him. We're going to put in this, we're going to put it out there that he's going to go see a doctor about his knee and his hip. And Seattle's just going to bypass them, and it'll allow us to protect someone else. Now that could come back and bite them on the ass should Seattle take Carey Price. But if that's the case, it's a win-win for Montreal because now he's off your books.
That's $10.5 million off your books.
and you can go sign a free agent goalkeeper at this point, and so it's a win-win for Montreal. You either get to keep an elite goaltender, or you get $10.5 million. Plus, you don't have to pay his $11 million signing bonus in September.
That's true. And the thing is, like, say they do lose Carey Price, okay?
Yeah.
Who are you going to start? Jake Allen?
Right.
Like, do you have a backup plan, or do you have a guy in the American Hockey League that you're ready to bring up right now?
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, if it wasn't for Carey Price, I don't see Montreal getting there.
No.
And I think that's the thing that they're forgetting, because when I heard that he waived his no move clause, I'm like, dude, what world are we living in right now? Like, you guys just came off a cup final. Sure, you lost in 5 games, but at the same time, you guys still got there.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if there's a rift between him and Mark Bergevin right now. Like, nothing's really been said. It's just mainly about Seattle is really looking into his injury currently.
Right.
But yeah, and then on speaking of the Ducks, on 31 Thoughts of Elliot Friedman this morning, the Ducks are officially out on Jack Eichel.
Okay.
Yeah. They said, let me pull it up here. The price hasn't changed. So they have not changed the price. It's still the same. And so they still want 2 NHL players, top.
Right.
Two top prospects. They want a first-round pick. That's 4 assets.
Yeah.
Like, if the guy's playing at 100%, he's ready to go. And then this was today, actually. They still haven't set a date for his surgery. Like, he hasn't had the surgery yet. And this guy is not 100%.
No, he's not.
Why would you ask for that much and expect that you're going to get guys knocking on your door?
I think they're hoping for stupidity of a GM that needs a top line center and that's willing to give up those assets. Like you said, if he's healthy, I consider giving maybe Pacioretty, possibly a Riley Smith for Vegas, and then a couple assets that we have in our AHL system.
Yeah.
But the unknown of his surgery, and they're saying it's nothing that he can't come back from 100%. It's not a super major surgery. It's a surgery.
Well, it's like a serious neck injury that he's been having.
Yeah, but they said the surgery itself shouldn't stop him from being back 100%. But at the same time, I'm like, there's still a possibility. What surgery gets botched? Rehab gets botched, something.
Yeah.
So no, you're right. Like, they're asking for the world, hoping that there's a GM out there who's dumb enough to make that move. And there might be a GM dumb enough to make that move, but obviously your Ducks aren't on that train no more.
Well, because they wanted Zegras.
Yeah.
They wanted Zegras or they wanted Drysdale. I heard both those names being thrown out there.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Jack Eichel's stats right now. He only played 21 games and then he left for the rest of the season in that 56-game season. He only got 2 goals, 16 assists. And I know Buffalo had a bad season. They lost like double digits. I think it was like 14, 15 games. They broke the record.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, he was a -9, but 21 games played, and that he has that big injury. Is it that major? Or are we just waiting until it gets so bad that he could be out longer and it could be the detriment of his career?
Yeah. You would think that they would take care of it right away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, get the surgery scheduled, get everything taken care of, and then move on.
Yeah.
But no, they're holding it off for some reason. I'm interested to see what's going on. If it can't be he's waiting for a second opinion. You know what I mean? Like,
not this long. It's been months after they got done.
Yeah. Are they hoping that it just magically heals by itself? Is there some sort of swelling around the area that they need to go down? I mean, they're not talking. And I mean, it's smart because you don't want to say, hey, this could be the end of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Give me 4 assets and some picks. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But at the same time, Eichel needs to do what's best for him and say, hey, look, guys, I need this surgery regardless, so I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting. Man, I don't know, man. Like, I'm trying to see what other centers are actually available in free agency this year.
Let's see.
Let's see. David Krejci, but he's 35.
Mm-hmm.
Stastny's 35. Stepan's 31. Backus is 37. All these guys are old, man.
You got Getzlaf at the top.
Yeah.
And David Krejci. You got Paul Stastny, who's getting older. He could play 2 different positions. You can go center or left. You got Derek Steffen.
There's just no good young centers out there right now. Like, and we were talking about that. I think Vegas needs a top line center. And I mean, yeah, like
if you guys want to go for experience, you know the guy you need to go with, and it's Getzlaf, but he's going to be a third line. Like, he's not going to be that guy.
We need someone to pair. Honestly, we need someone to pair with Stone and Pacioretty, or if we move Pacioretty out, we need someone, you know, on that top line. I love Chandler Stevenson, but he's a second line center at best.
Yeah, he's got a ton of speed. I'll tell you, like, he rips the Ducks apart every time he plays us.
That's the whole Pacific Division, man. I think that's the way it's going. Like, I mean, when Colorado was in the division, they're fast. Vegas is fast. When you look at the NHL now, Tampa's fast. Florida's fast. I think that's the way it's moving now. And the Ducks, man, with Zegras, and that kid is fast.
Yeah.
And he's got good hands too. And, you know, Edmonton is fast. It's, you know, not very many people are faster than Connor McDavid. So
that's a really big question I have. In the next 2 years, say the Oilers are just the same.
Yeah.
Does he want out?
Oh yeah.
You know, and the dude's the face of the NHL.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's insane, like what that kid can do. And if he were to play in a bigger market, I'm not saying the Leafs, no. But if he were to play for a bigger market team, I mean, God, the things that he could do, the assets that he could have playing with him. And, you know, as much as I want to think Nugent Hopkins, you know, the 8-year deal that he got, you still got Draisaitl, you still got Kara. You got that one kid, David Cahoon. But you just, I don't know. I don't know what they need. And I mean, it's goaltending for sure. They got to figure that out, because with Koskinen and Mike Smith, like, those guys are just not going to get it done. Mike Smith is not what he was 10 years ago. He's just not that guy. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I hope to see, you know, if the Oilers are still in, you know, bad shape like they are now, 2 years from now, I hope that he gets out, and I hope that's like one of the craziest free just trades that we ever see. And the return, I don't even know. I wouldn't even want to know what the return is. It's got to be something nuts.
Yeah, it's after next season, he actually has the no movement clause in his contract.
Okay.
So if Edmonton was going to move off of him with no repercussions and send him anywhere, they'd have to do it this coming season. I don't see that happening. I you know, McDavid is just too much of a money asset, you know, to your team. But I mean, his salary right now, his cap hit is $12.5 million. You know, that's a lot of money for anybody to take in. But he's under contract till 2026. You know what I mean? He'll be 30 at that time, roughly. Like, So he's still got plenty of game left.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you look at guys like Mitch Marner and William Nylander,
Mm-hmm.
who are almost making about the same amount of money that he's making, and McDavid's doing it all by himself.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Toronto has all of those weapons, and they can't figure it out. Like that's another team I just don't understand. It's like you have all the pieces.
Yeah.
What is going on? And I don't know.
It's got to be culture, man. They're so used to losing.
Yeah.
That they have to get someone in there that's a winner and say, hey, look, if we're up 3-1, we need to put our foot on their throat and stomp.
Yep.
and end it. So I don't know who that is. I don't know who they grab that is that winner. I don't know if you look at the coaching and say, hey, look, you're just not the guy to get us over the hump. That's how I feel about Pete DeBoer. Like, I think he's a really good coach, but he couldn't get over the hump in New Jersey. He couldn't get over the hump in San Jose. I think he's a very good coach, but he fails to make strategic changes in game. He fails to do anything different with his power play. And he's just not that guy that's going to lead Vegas to the promised land.
Mm-hmm. I felt that way when they got him.
Yeah. I thought they were so quick to fire Gallant, and I thought that was so stupid.
That was such a knee-jerk reaction. I was actually quite surprised by that because that guy's a great coach, and he's going to land somewhere. Yeah. And
I mean, he just put Canada to the gold medal in the championship game. Like,
yeah.
So I thought he was going to go to Seattle. I thought Seattle would look at him as a coach and say, hey, look what he did for Vegas. Let's get him here and do the same thing. I was talking about Vegas with the draft. I was kind of hoping, like, if they weren't able to protect people, I think I would have put Robin Lerner up for grabs.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. We
have a good goaltender in the system. In the AHL, and I think Fleury's good for at least 2 more years. And as good as Panda is, I think Fleury's just more athletic. He's faster. He's quicker. Robin Leonard's just a big guy and takes up a lot of net. And if you get him moving side to side, Colorado took him to task.
Yeah.
In game 1. But he's just a big guy, and like I don't think he's an elite goaltender. I think he's good.
I think it was a knee-jerk reaction for Vegas to sign Robert Leonard during that whole debacle between, all right, who's our starter, Marc-Andre Fleury or Robert Leonard? And I remember when that nonsense was going on.
Right.
And I remember just kind of scratching my head. I'm like, do you guys realize what this guy did in your first season?
Yeah.
He came over from Pittsburgh. You guys went to the promised land. You guys came up short. And now you guys are debating who's your starter?
Right. Because he had a bad time because his father had just died.
Yeah.
And he had a bad run of games. Like, cool, man. Like, not everyone can shake off a family member dying and go play stellar. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, the Robin Leonard thing, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was glad to get rid of Malcolm Subban. I think he's a horrible goaltender. But then we sign Robin Leonard in the offseason to a $5.5 million deal. And I'm like, we have Fleury who's making $7 million. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But no, I think I would have left him exposed. And probably, as much as I'd hate to say it, Marchessault, I think I would have left exposed.
Yeah.
Ryan Reeves, just age alone. McNabb. And then obviously Alec Martinez because he's a free agent. But
I think you guys got to re-sign him.
I do too.
You guys got to re-sign him.
Absolutely have to. I think him and Shea Theodore were an amazing pair during the season. I think Petro, is a great signing, but I think we overpaid for Petro. I don't know. Like, I think he's a great defender, but we're cash strapped now. We're completely capped out.
Yeah.
Unless we make moves and get rid of some of these guys, and I don't want Seattle to kind of do that same thing. Where they're signing these guys to big contracts right off the bat, and they're handcuffing them essentially.
Yeah.
For the future, and with Tarasenko. Like, he's only got 2 years left on his contract, so if you plan on signing him, know that you're probably going to be giving up $7.5 to $8 million a year for him.
Yeah.
So it's tough, man. But let's jump for baseball real quick. We didn't get to do it, but the home run derby. What did you think?
Oh, it was amazing. Like,
yeah,
I love Pete Alonso. I love what he brings to the home run derby. I think it's fantastic. And seeing him just launch balls, and Ohtani, seeing him get a rough go in the beginning. I think it was just the timing and the amount of pressure that's on you, because all eyes are on you and everybody was there to see him. I thought it was a great derby. I thought the All-Star game too was great. As a matter of fact, I actually ordered one of Pete Alonso's balls that he hit in the first round of the 35 that he hit. And it was one of the bonus balls. And some guy was selling them for like $30 a piece. And I'm like, dude, I want one. Like, I want one. So next podcast, if it gets here in time, I'll show it off and everything. So
that'd be cool, man.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think the home run derby is the best spectacle of all-star breaks. It's always fun. It's always a good it's a good entertaining time. Just because the personalities that are in it are usually big and boisterous. Like, obviously Pete Alonso, after he won, went kind of crazy with the chain and all that stuff. Shohei, again, a lot of pressure, but Juan Soto talking smack that entire run. And then going 3 for 3 in the swing off, I thought was amazing. That's impressive. I would have liked to see Tatis Jr. in it.
He might be next year.
I mean, I hope so. He's another kid that's got pop. But I was watching, and I mentioned it last week when you weren't here. In like the Korean League, they do a bunting challenge. So they put these tarps out on the field, and they look like targets with like 5 points for the center, 4 for the outer ring, 3. And like they had like skills competition to see who can bunt into those
that would positions. Be fun.
And I'm like, see, like that's another thing we need to do. Like, because with basketball, they do the dunk contest, the 3-point contest, the skills competition, and then the game, and then the rookie game. I think baseball can expand it. Like, if you're trying to get fans back, do stuff like this. Have a skills competition where you have outfielders throwing home at a target and see who can hit that target. Like, the fastest pitch or the hardest pitch, things like that. But the baseball, like the home run derby, I think is the crown jewel of all-star sports.
Oh yeah.
And we've talked about it. Guys who win the home run derby tend to have a little bit rougher time their second half of the season. I don't think that happens with Pete Alonso. He's a veteran. I think he goes on and
no, he's been tearing it up. He's been doing really, really well.
I called it 2 weeks ago. I think the Mets are a quote unquote World Series team. I think they have the dynamic personality. I think the players. You get Syndergaard back. I think your 1-2 punches there. The Braves losing Acuna is devastating. Even though they picked up Jock, it's not the same. It's cool because it's like I'm not a Mets fan, but I've liked the Mets because of Mike Piazza, Darryl Strawberry, David Wright. And Pete Alonso. I love their black jerseys. I saw that tweet that they're going back to the black jerseys, and I was like, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, the home run derby's cool. I didn't get to watch the All-Star game. I was working.
Mm-hmm.
But is the All-Star game, is it important? Like, so if the AL wins,
They get home field advantage.
They do get home field advantage regardless of record. Thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Astros will have home field advantage.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope they're not even there. That speaking of them, they're on the talk right now that they're possibly gonna pick up Max Scherzer since the Nationals are.
Jesus Christ,
dude! Like they're a good team. I mean, and it pisses me off so much because I look at them and I'm like, why'd you cheat then?
Yeah,
like you guys have the pieces. Why'd you do what you did? Like, yeah. Come on, man. So, yeah, I mean, to finish up with the All-Star game, yeah, Vlad Guerrero Jr., you know, that kid just hit a bomb. And the American League were hitting the National League pretty hard. And then the National League almost came back. And then Liam Hendricks came in and closed it out. And he dropped a couple of F-bombs, which was great. Because, I mean, the guy's like Scottish. So, I mean, you know.
Nice.
But, you know, picking up with the second half of the season, I mean, Giants are still rolling. You know, the Dodgers, I mean, Mookie Betts, I know he's out right now. Not long term, but just, you know, short term. You know, but it's going to be a very interesting postseason.
Yeah.
Because say, for instance, we'll talk about the NL West right now. Say, for instance, the Padres drop off. Because Blake Snell, since they started talking about like the sticky stuff, you know, he's kind of dropped off. Edwin Diaz from the Mets, he's blown 3 saves in a row.
Yeah, I've seen those.
A lot of guys are getting exposed. A lot of guys are getting exposed.
I see your tweets. Why is he closing? Get him out of there.
Oh, it baffles me, man. Like he's blown so many games. It's like his control sucks.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, put Trevor May in. Anyone.
Anybody but Diaz.
My God. And I think that's going to be the Mets' problem if they make the postseason, is going to be their pitching. The bats, dude, this team never gives up, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love that they never give up. And that Cincinnati game and the Mets game last night was nuts. Mm-hmm. It was just back and forth. And then Kevin Pillar and then Michael Conforto hit back-to-back home runs. And, I mean, it was awesome to see. Yeah. You know? And then, you know, you got the Dodgers. Muncy can't stop hitting bombs.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, he is just on fire. And, I mean, I feel like with the Giants, they don't talk about Yastrzemski enough.
Yes. Like Buster Posey's getting all the credit.
Yeah.
It's like Buster Posey, but yeah, there's a guy there who has a nice storied past in baseball. And yeah, he's not getting the credit he deserves. And they're playing well. Honestly, I thought they're going to fall off this half of the season. I just don't think they have the depth, but I mean, I could be wrong there. You know, the Dodgers need to stay healthy. You know, they've had guys come in and out of the lineup. I don't think Seager's back yet. Mookie's out now, like you said. Colorado and the Diamondbacks are done. It really is a 3-horse race right now for that division. Mm-hmm. But I think the experience of the Dodgers pull it out.
Yeah, or they take the wild card. I mean, they could take the wild card and then, you know, go full steam ahead into the postseason. Because I think they're at the top of the wild card in the NL.
Yeah.
Right now. Let me see. Yeah, so the White Sox. Oh, no. Oh, there we go. Tampa Bay is leading the wild card with 2 games up. Mm-hmm. And then you got the Dodgers and Padres in the wild card. So, I mean, if not, then they go full steam ahead and they play, you know, the number 1 team. Or no, they do the face off between both teams, which that would be exciting.
Yeah.
Just right away, you have the Padres and the Dodgers going at it in the wild card round. Like, that would be nuts.
Yeah, that's a way to kick off your baseball postseason.
Yeah. And the wild card for the AL, you would have Tampa Bay and Oakland, which Tampa Bay would beat them for sure. But I'll tell you, man, Seattle, they're freaking coming. They're coming back somehow. And I'm like, dude, like, that's a bit shocking to me.
Yeah. They're 3 games back of the wild card, and surprisingly, none of the fans here are going crazy, which is usually what they do. They overreact. But the talk is do you trade or keep Mitch Haniger, who's been on a tear?
Yeah.
His value's never been higher, and I think you trade him. Because let's be honest, even if you make the playoffs, you're gonna go first round out.
Oh yeah.
You're not beating the Red Sox. You're not going to beat Houston,
or even the White Sox. Like you're not gonna beat one of those teams. No way.
Mitch Haniger has, I think, a year left on his contract. I think you trade him. His value is all time high. You have a good young team, and then you make a move in the postseason to go get yourself a superstar, whether it's Trevor Story, Baez, Correa, Corey Seager, if he wants to go up there and play with his brother. But yeah, I think the Mariners, this is about that time of year we see them go whatever. Let's just say there's 90 games left. They'll go like 30-60. But yeah, it's amazing how they're doing it because their pitching's not fantastic.
No.
They're winning a bunch of one run games. So they're almost blowing games. Like, the other night against the Angels almost came back. Shohei hit a double, and it's a one-run game. I was
watching that, yeah.
Man,
yeah, that was a close one, and I was like, man, I was hoping that he would have hit a walk-off.
Yeah.
But, just getting that double, I was like, yeah, I don't know if they got enough for that. But, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, it's really – the team that's really – dropped off where I'm like, you guys were so good in that first month and a half of the season, and they're definitely going to be sellers at the trade deadline, is the Cubs.
Yeah.
Like, they were pitching well, they were hitting well, and then all of a sudden they just went 11-game losing streak. And now the talk of the town for the Mets is, do we go after Chris Bryant to fill up the hole at third? But then we have J.D. Davis. And I'm like, but you got Chris Bryant. You'd have Chris Bryant, Lindor, McNeil, and Conforto. Or no, Alonso. My bad.
Alonso,
right field.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, that is disgusting.
And if you guys could get Bryant to sign, because he will be a free agent. Like,
yeah, he might be a rental.
Yeah. But so would Baez. If they're shopping guys, Baez is a rental too, because Baez is a free agent after this year too. Like, but if you could get him and sign, I think it solidifies the Mets NL run. Like, I don't want to say guarantees you a run to the NL, finals, but it would do damage to every other team, because you're looking at a guy who can hit, who's a good fielder. 1 through 6 in your lineup would be completely nasty.
Especially if Syndergaard comes back. Carrasco has been pitching. DeGrom, he'll be back. Taijuan Walker. I mean, we probably have to have one bullpen day.
Yeah.
One. And that depends on if you wrap up the series or not.
Yeah.
And it's looking more and more likely, if the Mets stay on course, they're going to be playing Milwaukee in the first round.
Yeah.
And it's that second round that worries the hell out of me. It's you're either going to face the Dodgers or you're going to face the Padres,
right,
or the Giants.
The Giants.
It's going to be one of those 3 teams. And if you beat one of them, and people have asked me, they're just like, well, you're a Mets and a Dodgers fan. Which team would you root for if they were to face each other? I'm like, I wouldn't care. Like whoever comes out of it, I'm going to be happy. Of course, my Mets come first and the Dodgers come second. But at the end of the day, one of my teams is coming out of this.
Yeah.
You know, my wife is going to be pissed if the Dodgers lose to the Mets. You know, she had to go through that with me back in 2015 when Daniel Murphy hit the home run and you know, she was very upset. And I mean, after that, she was happy to see, you know, them get to the World Series. But I'm like, dude, Kansas City's just a better team. They were there the year before and they lost to the Giants. And now that they've won. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't care as long as, you know, whoever comes out is going to be a contender. You know, my biggest worry for the Dodgers is injuries.
Yeah.
And with the Trevor Bauer thing, like they're saying it should be done by the 27th. Do you look for another arm?
Yeah, and that's why I think Scherzer would be the guy you go after.
Yeah.
Especially because you want to keep him away from Houston because you know there's a good chance you see them in the postseason.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, I think you have to go after him, and yeah, I have that same thought. It's the injuries for the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. It's the inexperience of the Padres. That's why I'm like, I'm not worried about Milwaukee unless they have a Tampa Bay-esque run. Yeah. But the Mets, if your guys stay healthy, you have DeGrom, you'll have Syndergaard, you'll have Walker. That right there, that 3-pitch rotation going into a playoffs is completely solid.
And the biggest thing that what lost, and you know this, you know, what lost Tampa Bay, that World Series was getting analytics in the way.
Right.
And that's the thing that I feel what finally Dave Roberts figured out was that, all right, I just got to leave him in.
Yeah.
You know, if something happens, I'll pull him if I can. But that's my biggest worry with Luis Rojas, the Mets manager, is that he takes pitchers out too early and tries to go with these guys in the bullpen. And we're using our bullpen more than starting pitchers. And I'm like, dude, like, let them go 6-7 innings. And if they're hot, let them go.
Yeah.
And DeGrom told him one time in the beginning part of the season when he broke Tom Seaver's strikeout record, he's like, I'm going. Like, you're not taking me out. I'm going.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like that is a lost thing in baseball now, is that too many managers get in their own head and they're like, okay, but I want to save him. But you got to win the game first.
Right.
So.
Yeah. You're pitching 80 pitches by the 5th inning and they take you out now. It's, you know, back in the day with Clemens and Johnson and even Kurt Schilling, these guys were 110, 115 pitches deep, 8 innings in. I mean, no coach thought about pulling them out if they were on fire. Like,
no.
Like, I'm sorry, if DeGrom's going and it's 5th inning and this dude has, let's say 8 strikeouts, like, I'm going to let him keep rolling. Like, let him go until he says I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't agree with the analytics side of the game. I understand why it's there. I understand Moneyball and all that stuff and the little intricacies of the game. But you have to ride the hot hand. And like you said, if Blake Snell plays that game out in the World Series, who knows what happens? You know,
they could have gone to game 7. It could have gone to game 6. I mean, after that whole incident that happened at home plate where Chris Taylor bobbled the ball in the outfield and then the ball got bobbled by Will Smith. Yeah. I and my wife could tell. She's like, oh, shit. Like, it was like something from the baseball gods was like, no, it's not going to come that easy.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, Kenley Jansen throwing meatballs over the plate doesn't help either. But
that guy.
Yeah. Like, that's a whole other video for another time. But
yeah. He's interesting because there's times where I love Kenley Jansen and there's times where I'm just like, get this dude off the mound.
I would take him over Edwin Diaz.
Yes.
I mean, You watch Edwin Diaz's command versus Kenley Jansen, and I mean, I'm happy for Kenley Jansen for him slimming down quite a bit this past summer.
Yes,
but I really thought after he blew that game, that was his last time in a Dodger uniform.
Yeah,
I thought that was it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought he was going to be gone, but they brought him back. He's having a pretty good year. Like he's pitching pretty solid.
Yeah.
But we got anything else to go over?
I think the only thing to really Aaron Rodgers football. That's really the only thing that I can think of with the NFL right now. I mean, I know the Rams lost their running back.
Yep. Hurt his Achilles, done for the season.
Me being a Chicago Bears fan, the Aaron Rodgers news makes me happy because it gives us a chance to win in the NFC.
And you guys have a quarterback now who's not Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, yeah, it's Andy Dalton. That makes me so happy. I give it till week 2 until we start Justin Fields.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap if we go 6-0. Like, give the kid some playing time. Like, Andy Dalton knows his role. We're paying him way too much money. But the Bears, I feel even this year, I mean, yes, we got a quarterback that we finally wanted. I could not believe that we got him.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you still got to beat Green Bay. You know, they have is it Jordan Love in Green Bay? Yeah. That's another nightmare that we could be dealing with for years. And it's just, you know, with the NFL, I mean, the team to beat still is Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, that team is still to beat. I don't know how good Kansas City is going to be next year. Still going to be a contender. Yeah, for the most part, the NFL has been pretty quiet. Like, there's really not much to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, other than Rodgers, not really saying anything other than he's going to go home and do what he does. The word came out that, you know, the Packers offered him a contract this offseason to make him the highest paid quarterback.
2 years.
And he turned it down.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me think he either really wants out of Green Bay. So either he'll be done, he'll retire and go host Jeopardy, or he'll have say, and we'll see some big moves from Green Bay picking up, doing some trades to try to get pieces to make him happy. I hope he retires. You know what I mean? Like, I like him as a quarterback. I think he's phenomenally talented. But man, he just doesn't have that drive. He doesn't have like that Tom Brady. Like, Tom Brady, despite winning 7 Super Bowls, wants to win another. Wants to like go out and compete.
The question is, and I agree with Stephen A. Smith on ESPN about this, what did they do to him?
Yeah.
In order for him to feel this way? That's the big question I have. I disagree that he doesn't have the drive. This guy has taken you to back-to-back NFC championship games.
Yeah.
So what was said, because Matt LaFleur inevitably took the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. They could have gone for it. They could have gotten the game tied up, but he decided to go, okay, well, there's 3.5 minutes left, but I'm also forgetting Tom Brady's back there.
Right.
Like, but I think, and I keep hearing this rumor, but then I hear that Green Bay shuts it down. Like, there's no trade talks. There's no nothing. But there's also no talk about what are we doing to make this guy happy. And then I hear that Denver is talking with Green Bay. So I'm like, okay, so what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And if he does go to Green Bay, but then here's a really good one. What if he goes to the Saints?
Yeah.
And he goes and plays in the same division as Tom Brady, right, with Tampa? Yeah. That could be something.
See, I thought the Denver talk was dumb. I don't think he wants to go to a division where he has to play Patrick Mahomes twice a year. He'll have to play Derek Carr, who, despite what everyone says, he is a top 10 quarterback every year in stats. And then he's got an up-and-comer rookie of the year that he has to face twice a year, and Justin Herbert in the Chargers.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants that. I don't think he wants to have to play through certain teams to win the division.
Right.
He has it fairly easy now, but if he wants it even easier, go to the Washington football team.
Didn't they re-sign when Alex Smith went down? Didn't they re-sign that one kid who almost got them to beat Tampa Bay? And I think it was the wild card.
Yeah, like he's a no-name kid.
He's a no-name guy, but man, he was this close.
Yeah,
he was so close.
Well, because their defense is solid. They got a top 5 defense, and I think if you throw Aaron Rodgers in that mix, that division would be Washington's to lose. Dallas Cowboys are the Dallas Cowboys. They'll end up 8-8 unless
they'll win the division somehow.
Yeah. But yeah, the interesting, like you said, the Saints would be interesting. I didn't think about that one because they need a quarterback, but they did pay a lot of money to Taysom Hill, who I don't understand why. He is a strictly gadget guy. Jameis Winston is there, and I think
God, he was a disappointment.
Yeah. Like maybe it was the coach, but we'll see. He got LASIK, and I just don't think you change poor judgment. I think his judgment is poor when it comes to throwing the ball.
I was a bit surprised when since we're on the topic of the Saints, I was a bit surprised when I heard Drew Brees announce his retirement. I was like, okay, like I'm fine with that, I guess, but it's a big change for that team because him and Sean Payton, I mean, they've been great. I really thought, Russell Wilson was going to get moved. Like there was a big talk that he was going to go to the Bears, and the Bears tried every single way to get him, and it just didn't happen. And I threw out this hypothetical to a buddy of mine. I was like, wouldn't it be just the super team vibe if Tampa calls Aaron Rodgers and goes, "You can back up Tom Brady"? Like, I mean, I'm like, God, talk about a super team. But I know Aaron Rodgers wants to start. I know that he wants to get in his reps and everything. But Denver, I agree with you. I think that would be dumb. But I mean, going to the Saints, and I think that would be great for him. But all in all, I see him playing next year. I see him playing for Green Bay. I think they're going to figure something out. He hasn't reported to camp yet. But I see them figuring this thing out, because the worst thing that he could do is, sit out. Yeah. He could sit out. And there was something said yesterday on you watched Pat McPhee? Yeah. About his house, how it's like being like cleaned and presented, and they're saying that it's a possibility that he's selling his house in Green Bay. Yeah. And I was like, so I'm sure we're going to hear something in the next couple of weeks. But that's all I got. Yeah, because they did the same thing with Brady. Brady put his house up in Boston or wherever it was in Massachusetts. Yep. And the Patriots try to play it off. Oh no, he has 10 houses. He's just putting one up. Well, next thing you know, he's in Tampa Bay winning a title. Yep. So again, Aaron Rodgers has the money. If the Packers can't make him happy, I think he retires. Yeah. Jeopardy offered him a co-host or the hosting gig. I want to say it was like for $7 or $8 million a year. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll stand there and ask questions and it was crazy. Not have to get hit by 400-pound linemen. Like, I'll do that. I'll take that. I'll take that money any day. Yeah. I think the rift started though when they didn't go after Julio Jones. He wanted another receiver to go with Devontae Adams, and they didn't do it. And I think that's where it started. And unless they get another big name receiver, I think he's done. Yeah, I just don't see him playing in another jersey. No, I don't either. Don't. So yeah, no, I think he retires. I think if they can't figure it out, I think he retires. Yeah, and that's the end of Aaron Rodgers
NFL
Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all right. Well, it was a good show. It's always fun talking. We will be same next week, right?
Yep.
Do Tuesday 2 o'clock new time. So yeah, you heard it here, folks. Tuesday 2 o'clock. So yeah, that'll be the new podcast. You can hear us on obviously YouTube stream, but we also do Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify. I believe we're on iHeartRadio. But tune in. If you can't watch, give us a listen, download, like, subscribe. This is Coach Zach Gray and David. We will see you guys next week.
Yep. See you guys next week, guys. Take care.